YouTube family, it's your favorite black guy from Nebraska. It's your friend from that big old N. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to some more content. Good evening. I hope you guys have a great day. It's Monday, so I know about those Monday struggles, right? So we're back with some more content in regards to this book called The Negro Question, Part 3, The Black Pentecost by Lee Cummings. I want to thank all my new subs, my new subscribers. I want to thank you guys for, supporting, commenting, liking, subscribing. I'm grateful. I thank you guys for everything, all the information, and you guys even give me pointers, and I appreciate that. I haven't really had to deal with too much negativity, so let's really calm down. So I don't know how long today's content is going to be. I'm going to see if I can get in a groove, and if I get in the groove and if it's going good, then I'll finish the whole chapter. But if not, then I'll find a good stopping point. Sometimes lengthy videos can be a struggle. YouTube really doesn't particularly like to throw lengthy videos in the algorithm. I think it's a sweet spot. The sweet spot is between like 8 and 10 minutes. So, but you know what? Let's go ahead and get started. Today we're going to focus on chapter 5, the letter to the black churches. Okay, and we'll get that far. All right, here we go. Letters to the black churches: Galatia, Ephesus, Corinth, Galatia. Coin found in Galatian of Black King, Galatian King, Pisinos. So let me say something real quick. I had somebody comment on one of my videos saying, well, you know what? I don't like the way you're pronouncing these things. I'm educated and I can't deal with this. I'm gone. Like, dude, then leave. I don't want nobody viewing my videos that feels like that anyway. If my pronunciation is not to your liking, to the point where you're just like, I can't be here, I can't listen to this, then dude, go be a prima donna somewhere else. It's uncalled for. And I don't want people like that who will leave at the drop of a hat because they don't like my pronunciation. And people are just fickle anyway. Black King of Galatians, Pisinos, location of coin, Galatian Museum, and Asia Minor coins. I know that this is a hard pill to swallow, but the Galatians were a black race of people. If you want to know the truth about it, they and the Phrygians are one and the same people. Galatia was part of the Phrygian Empire, and this is the reason that Peter mentions them in his apostolic letter, 1 Peter 1:1. I have much to say about the brothers that showed up on Pentecost, but I will save the crown for the crowning moment. Be patient. Notice the black nappy beard and locks on this brother. This page. Coin depicting black Galatian King Diotarus, located at Black Galatian King Diotarus 6240 BC. Location of coin, Galatian Museum, and Asia Minor coins. Here is another image of the Galatian king Diotarus. And if you notice, the dates of these black Galatian kings is getting closer to the New Testament period. The apostle wrote letters to the Galatians because of the black Jews that resided in Galatia. 1 Peter 1 and Galatians 2:13 and Acts 6:16. Phrygia was a black kingdom. Remember the image of King Midas of Phrygia? I am trying very hard not to slant in my writing, but it's becoming extremely difficult. It appears that the Galatians were a black people as well. Ephesus. Image found at Ephesus. The image is housed at Louvre Museum, Paris, France. This image was found in Ephesus, modern Turkey, and if you take a closer look at this Ephesian, you will see that he has an afro. He doesn't have an afro. And his brown skin. But I have a greater witness than this. I would like to call on famed Greek historian Herodotus, because he was an eyewitness as to what an Ephesian looked like. Herodotus quotes the lineage of the Greeks. The Greek historian Herodotus wrote his works called the Histories, and they were divided into 9 books: Clio, Thalia, Erato, Euterpe, Polymnia, Calliope. You see these: Urania, Melpomene. See the next page. I'm not going to try to pronounce those because I'm just not going to try to do it. Herodotus writes about these Pelasgic people being black Greeks from ancient times. Herodotus states that the Hellenists absorbed themselves voluntarily with invading white barbarians, but that the Pelasgic Greeks remained pure black Greeks. I am having a hard time digesting this, but what can I do? I am siding with Herodotus not because of what he writes, but the archaeology supports his argument, not to mention that he was an eyewitness. The Project Gutenberg Extent of Hellenica by Xenophon, translated by H.G. Dawkins. Xenophon was a soldier who wrote the Anabasis, and in it he describes an interesting scene in which the Ephesians are going up to help Darius the Mede in a war. Now check that out, Darius. Okay, if you know somebody named Darius, what do he look like? Okay, General Exasius picked up his whole army in Ephesus, but they needed training, so they picked up prisoners along the way. He ordered his men to strip the prisoners so they could see their white skin, which looked like it never had seen the sun. Why would the Ephesians be amazed at the white skin of their prisoners if they were white also? They were amazed because the Ephesians were black, just like the archaeology suggests. This is what I call an algorithm. When you are missing a variable, you simply back into the answer. It is apparent when the apostles wrote to the Ephesians in your Bible that they were writing to a black nation of people. The apostle Paul writes that they were Jews, Acts 19:17, dwelling at Ephesus, and they were black. This is a critical point that people don't seem to get, and that is that the 10 tribes of Israel and tribes of Benjamin, Judah, and Levi had been scattered into Asia. Peter tells you that in the second chapter of Acts when he mentions that Jews came down from Asia. This was at least 17 years before Paul was given the right hand of fellowship. Remember, Paul spent 3 years in the desert of Arabia, and it was another 14 years before he received the right hand of fellowship. Corinth. Image dated 575 BC, found at Pentascopia, Corinth. Image housed at Louvre Museum in Paris, France. These images support Herodotus' argument that the Greeks were black from ancient times. Look at the date, 575 BC. Attached to this image of a black male Corinthian. These are the images of the brothers that apostles were writing letters to and ministering to through their missionary work. You see, I am not interested in making this a racial matter. My only interest is to unveil the facts surrounding the Black New Testament church, the Black New Testament church. The first church was black, its prophets, kings, priests, and God. When the Europeans came into the church, instead of them coming in and learning how to worship the God of Israel, they took over the church and instituted their God worship and customs. If you go back and look at the Eastern Orthodox church, you will see that they still worship a black Madonna and Christ. It was the western half of the Europe church, especially the Anglo-Saxon Brits, who painted the prophets, apostles, priests, and Jesus white. Their historians are fond of writing about a schism between the eastern half of the church and the western half, maybe because this was one of the issues, race. Image found at Pentascopia, Corinth, currently housed at Louvre Museum, Paris, France. Check this out. Based on the artifacts in the combined writings of the historians, I must conclude that the ancient Corinthians were a black people. We are citizens of a government and a system that was in existence when we were born. This thing that they call an education is one of the most confusing things that I've encountered in my short existence on the planet. There is no forum to present your findings if you are not part of the government-sponsored education. There is no forum to challenge the government-sponsored professors, and there is no forum to challenge their lies. None. I want you to consider this thought for a moment. Men have been convicted for murder and placed on a death row with less proof than I have presented to you today. They call it circumstantial evidence. In a court of law, absent a witness or murder weapon, all a prosecuting attorney has to do is place you at the crime scene, and I have done that. I have presented the witnesses and the weapon, the artifacts. I want to say something to you before I go any further. The Bible is a black history book that was written on the continent of Africa, Libya, not Europe. I am making this statement to your mind. Why? because all the manuscripts and Bibles that were written before the coming of the whites depicted the prophets and the apostles and Jesus as melanated people. Chapter 5 continue. I'm going to go ahead and continue, guys. The letters to the black churches, Colossae, Romans, and Thessalonian. Colossae. The image of one Onesimus dates to 1000 AD, mentioned in the book of Colossians 4:9 and Philemon, verse 10. Image location. Menologian of Brazil, eliminated manuscript, Constantinople, also Wikipedia, Encyclopedia. The image is of the apostle Onesimus of Colossae, a black male found at Colossae, but the imagery screams that the people of Colossae were indeed a black race of people. Colossae was an ancient city of Phrygia. Let me make sure. Colossae was an ancient city of Phrygia. That is correct. The black Phrygians that showed up on the day of Pentecost and the Colossians were probably present at Pentecost as well. The Bible states that Onesimus was a servant of Philemon of the Bible, but make no mistake about it, these people of Colossae were melanated indeed. Second to black Augustus, Diocletian, and Maximian. Check out these pictures. Image can be found on Wikipedia in the Vatican Library. I'm not going to write much about the blackness of these ancient Romans because we have visited the subject in previous chapters, but I will comment on these two melanated Roman emperors. I used to be confused by the sight of these melanated Roman emperors, but after about 2 years of looking at the information, it becomes clear to me why the Romans had melanated emperors. I will discuss that in another chapter. It is because the eastern leg of the Roman Empire encompassed the melanated Byzantine Empire, or what Peter called Phrygia, Cappadocia, Mesopotamia, Pontus, Parthia, Medi, Persia, Asia Minor, Libya, and Judah. The western leg of the Roman Empire encompassed Britain, Germany, France, Spain, Italy, and Switzerland, to name a few. Thessalonians, Saint Methodius and Cyril, melanated Jewish priests of Thessaly, the two Jews who converted the Khazars. Location of images, Holy Transgression Monastery, Brookline, Massachusetts. Icon, St. Isaac Skeet. The melanated Thessalonian priests, Methodios and Cyril, were the two melanated Jewish priests that taught Judaism, 700 AD to 800 AD, to the Khazars. Historically, it had been said of these two that they taught Christianity to the Khazars, but the record of the Khazar King Joseph was that he would choose neither Christianity nor Islam, and that would leave Judaism as the religion he chose for his people. This is the beginning of the existence of white Jews, the 700 AD to 800 AD in history. Prior to the coming of Cyril and Methodios, there was no such thing on the earth as a white Jew, and the artifacts prove it. Neither the earth nor the heavens have declared it, nor was it shown to me. King Joseph traced his lineage to Japheth, not Abraham. Read the 13th tribe, Arthur Kosner. They were the descendants of the white Hungarian barbarians and were situated by the Black Sea. They were known as the Khazars. The existence of these melanated Jews from Thessalonica is confirmed by the writings of Paul the Apostle, Acts 17:13. With this information, the Jews have retained their melanatedness 3,000 years into the future, counting from Abraham's birth, 2194 BC to 800 AD. Herodotus quotes the lineage of the Greeks, Urania, Book 8. I will pick this discussion up with the Thessalonians in a war with the Phocians. The soothsayer Telias was a strategy concerning the war with the Thessalonians. Telias advises that the Phocians should paint their bodies white all over with chalk, and that anybody in Thessalonica that wasn't white, that they should kill them. This actually implies that both parties were melanated. Let me read that again. I will pick this discussion up with the Thessalonians in a war with the Phocians. The soothsayer Teleos has a strategy concerning the war with the Thessalonians. Teleos advises that the Phocians should paint their bodies white, all over with chalk, and that anybody in Thessalonica that wasn't white, that they should kill them. This actually implies that both parties were melanated. Okay, that's some guerrilla warfare type stuff right there. This is rare in research when the archaeology actually is supported by the images or pictures. The Thessalonians were black people. What were we looking for? What are we looking at so far? We are looking at a need to rewrite the world's history books, and we need to revisit the images that have been placed in all of our Bibles. The white images in our Bibles are in direct conflict with the images coming out of the earth. They must match, and they don't. I'm not interested in the color of your skin. I'm only interested in the truth, and you should be too. It is time that we bring academia to bear concerning the things that we are teaching our children. Black, white, yellow, and red. And that's the end of chapter 5. I've already made content on chapter 6, the 7 Black Churches of Asia. The next time we read out this book, we will be talking about the melanated Byzantine Empire. So if you're still here, I appreciate you sticking around. I hope you enjoyed this content. All right. You guys have a good night. I'll see you on the next one. God bless. Peace.